This presentation, titled Auditing Skills Every Manager Needs, comes to us from IJ Arora. IJ is the president and CEO of Quality Management International, Inc., QMII. He has a 32-year record of achievement in the military, mercantile marine, and civilian industries. IJ serves as a team leader for consulting, advising, auditing, and training in management systems, specializing in several ISO and industry-specific standards. He is an Exemplar Global Certified Lead Auditor and a member of the U.S. TAG to ISO TC 176, the committee responsible for the ISO 9000 family of standards. IJ, I should say, is a popular speaker at several universities and forums on management systems, conflict management, crisis communication, and leadership, and his writing has appeared in numerous industry publications. And with that, take it away, IJ.
Good morning, Mike. Thank you for that introduction. And I like the discussion we had as we chose auditing skills every manager needs. It seems intuitive that auditors would do a great job and they would know their skills. And yet, when we meet leadership, when we meet top management, they say we do a lot of the auditing because we have to meet requirements and it is a part of the certification and plethora of other reasons. But rarely do I find top management leadership saying, oh, I was thrilled with this audit report. It provided me the very inputs I needed to make better decisions. And that is what we need. So I thought over the subject and I came out with a few of these 2 or 3, not too many mantras, which I plan to share with you. So we will look at understanding how to conduct value-adding audits, understand the common audit mistakes, the importance of removing biases. But basically, I want to stick to those 4 ingredients, at least out of maybe hundreds of them, at least those 4, if some of them or your audience will look at. So I went back to the basic ISO 19011, that is a guideline standard for auditing. And I took out this definition. And we might say, why are we looking at the definition? We are auditors. I want to look at and bring to your notice the sting in the end of the definition to determine the extent to which audit criteria are fulfilled. The definition is very, very carefully thought about, and yet auditors go looking for non-conformities. They go looking for the extent to which the audit criteria are not fulfilled. And with my more than 20 years of experience with just quality systems and QMII's 30 plus years, I can tell you that these auditors perhaps think that inspection and audit is the same thing. It isn't. And I would like to start with that, because your good practices, whether you are looking at the do's or the do nots, and as you create the environment for quality, are based on our understanding and appreciating this key point in the definition, that the intent of the processes, the intent of the management system is to produce conforming products and services. Those then may be, if it is your procedure, are inspected. The inspection protects the customer. That is not the auditing job. It results in it, yes. Let the inspectors look for what is wrong. It is their job to protect it. But as an auditor, look at the process. You are not inspecting. Therefore, look for conformity. And of course, if there is a non-conformity, let it drive correction and corrective action. Therefore, there is this slide in front of you with do's, interview the person, checklist, make notes, be courteous. None of it will work if your initial thought is, I'm going to go catch this guy, hit him on the head, give him 10 non-conformities. How will you do all this? You cannot be fair and honest if you are pre-decided that you are one of those auditors working against the definition as given in 19011. And therefore, you probably are arrogant, you have your ego, you will talk down, you will give recommendations, you will make comparisons. I saw a better system somewhere. It all starts when the auditor is an egoist and does not understand that he or she is there to look for conformity, Look at the positive side of it. And therefore, I want to share a little bit of my experience, which I have kind of boiled down to about 5, as I say, permit me for being from India, mantras, and modified to my US understanding by saying, if you like, my experience summarized: assess effectiveness. Don't look around for negativity only. That it is there, it will come out. Requirements need interpretation. But having done that, assess the effectiveness of both the implementation, not just conformity. How are they doing it? You have to prioritize the processes that sustain the core. Look at the sequence and interaction, ISO 9001-411. Look at the interaction. Look at the overall picture of the organization. Then you will find that you will flow it automatically to seek evidence of effective process control. You will have the established roles. You will be able to flow it down from policy to measurable objectives, and from measurable objectives, shop floor level, up to verifying the commitment of the top management. Is it a process? Because a bad system, Dr. Deming says, will let down a good person every time. My second mantra experience to you is plan, plan, plan. I have worked with, and I say it to you all, I worked with very experienced auditors on my team or with them. And some of them will say, oh, I've been auditing for 20 years. I don't need to plan. You need to plan. You owe it to your client. You owe it to the auditee. A good plan ensures the auditor is briefed and prepared. Make those checklists. Review relevant documentation. Nowadays, wonderful remote audits are possible. The software is so good. Why would you not talk to them before? Why would you not get all the inputs? I recently was doing a virtual audit, and I had to take somebody else on the team also. It was a federal entity I had to audit. So they gave me an auditor. And this auditor told me, I know some of their secrets. So when we audit, don't worry, I have my non-conformities, I'll share with you, we will catch them. I said, if you already know, why don't you ask them before so that they take care of them? I mean, why are you waiting to give them a non-conformity? Let them at least do some preliminary work. So please remember, you are not there to catch them. You are there to do a good preparation. Understand the auditee's audit client's objective. Make your checklists. Frame your questions. Why do you need to frame your questions? So that you have only that much of scope and criteria to achieve the objective. If you are not prepared, you will waste time. And for internal audits, I know there are industry-specific standards which require third parties to use canned standard checklists. That is third-party work. We are discussing internal auditing as the foundation of a strong management system, a well-implemented management system. So please don't use canned checklists. How can you? If you look at 911, you will see the clause tells you that you need to base your audit based on previous results, etc. If that is so, you must consider how can you be asking the same questions again. They will differ. Therefore, prepare. And therefore, I again say, plan, 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 plan. Plan more, yet more and more. Look at the resources you require. You have made the plan, now resource adequately. The objective being achieved depends on the right mix of resources. You have only that much of time. Do you need some outsourced support? Do you need competency? Maybe, like I said, I'm a good auditor. I've served on a nuclear submarine and I understand nuclear facilities, but I'm out of touch. I'm in touch with the process-based management system approach. Since the time I was on a nuclear submarine, things have changed. I need an expert. If you need competent advisor, ask. Consider the team composition. You need a good mix. Cross-fertilization. And it is a good thing. It's a good thing if the audit team includes members from that same organization. So you are not being looked at as a policeman. So we are looking for conformities. We are not basing them on feelings. We are looking at requirements. We are looking at the risks, and we are planning our resources. The fourth important thing I would like to discuss is avoid confirmation biases and prejudices. I've been involved with many industries: mining, chemical, manufacturing, defense. I do a lot of work. I do also a lot of work with maritime world. It is the same, whether it is domestic, whether it is towing vessels, whether it is passenger vessels. Today, I started my career in the maritime world when I was maybe about 18. And so it is about 5 to 6 decades associated with the sea, a lot of it in command, a lot of it in management system. It could, it may, and it does in many of our cases go to our head. I know it all. I would like to audit you by saying, as per my experience. That is where we harm the system. We damage the system. Please do not audit to your whims and fancies, to your experience. Use your experience to ask the questions. But you must audit to the requirements. Understand the anatomy of a non-conformity. It has 3 distinct parts. Therefore, don't go with your own biases and bring them to the table. It is one of the blunders, a sin that most auditors commit. Listen to them. You have to establish the facts, objective evidence by listening to them. Avoid your prejudice from the past results. If you think you are going not very correct, please seek advice. The only exception to requirement is when the data presented to you indicates a risk. Data drives risk and trends. And that is why in the wisdom, when they updated the ISO 9001 and the high-level structure and the new standards across the board now, risk has been introduced. It has replaced preventive action. In the PDCA, Cycle Plan Do Check Act, from the act stage where we took care of the preventive action, we have taken it to plan stage. Therefore, you must audit to see that the organization established the risks to what they are doing in their processes to get the conforming products and services at the plan stage itself and then throughout. And where data points that they did not, you must give a risk non-conformity. But don't go by your own ego. Good auditors avoid ego. We must respect the clients. I always give the example of a fruit-bearing tree having its branches bend with the fruit. It's only the fruitless tree which stands erect. So you are a good auditor. Have humility. I mean, I don't mean humility as subservient. What I mean is go with respect for the client, and you will see this as I have given you these four of these so far, four of these mantras, right from the beginning down to planning, etc. It is basically telling you, base it on objective evidence. Your experience should enable you to ask the questions, not to judge the organization against your experience. This last one, I do want to bring it to your notice because, again, it's fresh in my mind and fairly recent. We were auditing with a team, and what do I see? That an auditor has a solution for everything. So my question to this gentleman was, why don't you propose you would like to become the CEO of this organization? You seem to have all the solutions. They don't need a management. They can just have you. Our job is not to find the solution. Good auditors know this. They must not be a part of systematically killing the management and killing the abilities of the management. It is the management's job to do root cause analysis, use the tools, call more resources. Those resources could be you, but not during the audit. Wear two hats. When you are an auditor, be honest. Your job is not to provide the solution, but to define the problem correctly. Your job is not to give them the solution, but define the problem correctly by exercising the judgment, giving them the correct requirement, capturing the objective evidence correctly, factually, and presenting it to show clearly in terms of the nature, meaning how did they fail? Failed to, neglected to, no evidence was seen of. So I do want to repeat that please understand the anatomy of a non-conformity. It has three parts: requirement, objective evidence, and the nature. How did they fail? Make sure your non-conformity has these three ingredients. When I'm teaching problem solving, etc., I always, if you look at the D8 in that, it says very clearly, almost the second D in the 8D methodology is define the problem. But you already have the non-conformity. Why don't you do it? Because it may have not been written correctly. You cannot find a solution if the problem is not correctly defined. And therefore, I urge, I give you this, I share this fifth essential skill, which is your job is to give, when there is a non-conformity, the correct non-conformity. Remember, non-conformity drives correction and corrective action. If the non-conformity is not correctly written, you may put the management in a precarious situation of doing root cause analysis, which doesn't lead to the actual cause. And please remember, data drives risk and trends. And therefore, when you give a non-conformity related to risk, that is 611, or in industry specific standards to 811 generally, please make sure that you have the objective evidence correctly. Identify the issue clearly. before the management can work on the solution. So these are the 5 that I like to give, and therefore I'm going on a digressing to give this to you. This is right from 19011-2018. When you are evaluating your auditors, they may be qualified, they may have done the course, they may have learned it up, but they may not have the aptitude of being an auditor. You can have the education and still not have the competence. And I think our wonderful Exemplar Global is doing a good thing by bringing out a behavioral assessment very soon. So it's a good thing. Assess your auditors, have a system, use this from 19011, develop your own methods. So look at the review of the records, feedback, interview, observation, post-audit review, etc. And you can go through this wonderful chart and add to it. What it is telling you is there are some auditors who just don't have it in them. They will go looking for non-conformities. They will use biases. If you have this aptitude, maybe they'll make better inspectors or whatever, but certainly not good auditors. Certainly not good auditors. Therefore, I would say to sum up these, focus on assessing effectiveness. I spoke on this. Look for conformity. Plan ahead. You owe it to your client. Account for risks. Avoid templates. I meet at least 60% of the auditors I come in touch with. They say, oh, I have already a canned checklist, I'll measure. I said, but this has 300 questions. How do you plan to do it within that half an hour? I'm asking them to fill it. Well, that's not an audit. You need to make a specific focus on the as is. How are they today? Don't look at templates. Look at that. Ensure your resources. Train your team to avoid confirmation bias, prejudices. And especially when you're lead auditors, you have a duty that those who work with you learn the correct attitude. Identifying the problem clearly to drive corrective action. Of course, preventive action, that is appreciation of risk, but it will prevent if you go into the root cause. You will go into the root cause if the problem is defined correctly. And I do have this quote, which is original from me. The only bad non-conformity is the one you do not know about. Create the environment for quality, environment, security, whatever is your standard, or for personal safety, etc. But in creating that environment, please remember, good auditors go looking for conformity, but when they give a non-conformity, when there is a non-conformity, when we don't meet the requirements, we must build the environment to let it drive correction and corrective action. It is a good thing. It helps you in ensuring continual improvement and that your organization will provide conforming products and services. So thank you very much. I will now hand you back to my wonderful friend, Mike. Michael?
Yes, well, thank you, IJ Arora, for that excellent presentation on the auditing skills that every manager needs. And that concludes this presentation.